actually take a chance at Mike Tyson not being able to do what he used to do. Because that's what he's doing. The gamble is, like, there's not a chance in hell that Jake Paul would survive.
Joe Rogan just outrighted exposed the Jake Paul vs. Mike Tyson fight contract, and trust me, what he spilled makes this fight sound less like a boxing match and more like a Netflix drama with a 6-season renewal. I
think 20 and 40. Yeah,
20 and
I think
40.
that's what I'd heard. You know, which I'm happy Mike got the money, and I'm happy that he didn't get hurt. That was my fear, that it was going to be a real fight.
The real punches weren't being thrown in the ring. They were buried deep in a contract thicker than Tyson's legacy, every jab duck and stare down might have been choreographed with more precision than a Broadway musical. He's fighting big money fights, and fights it almost seems like that
he's fighting big money fights and fights. It almost seems like that he's like for sure gonna win to keep his record nice, which is like this last guy.
For sure going to win to keep his record nice, which is like this last guy was seriously, how did a 57-year-old Mike Tyson end up trading punches with a 7-year-old Jake Paul in the first place? Watching the hat fight felt less like a sporting event and more like front row seats to a high-budget circus. And now, thanks to Rogan's explosive revelations, it seems the whole thing was more a business deal than a boxing match. Contract's performance clauses and possibly scripted moves included.
They're not of similar ability. Mike Tyson's one of the most gifted fighters ever created. Jake Paul, who knows how good he is? He fought one actual boxer and he lost that fight. We don't know how.
On one side, you've got Mike Tyson, boxing's most feared heavyweight, a living legend whose name alone commands respect. On the other, Jake Paul, social media's ultimate disruptor, turned boxing's biggest wild card. When this fight was announced, it wasn't just boxing fans who were stunned. The entire internet exploded. How could this even be real?
Jake Paul is fighting Mike Tyson, and I gotta know, you know, like he's a lot younger, he's half his age, and he's training around the clock for the last few years.
People couldn't wrap their heads around it. Tyson, a man who built his career crushing opponents with ferocious power, is now stepping into the ring with Jake Paul, a YouTuber turned boxer with a knack for making people hate, watch his every move. It felt like a crossover event out of a Hollywood script. And that's where things get really interesting, because some people think it was a script. The Jake Paul-Mike Tyson fight, interesting script. How? So what do you mean by script? Weird, just like scripted in what way? No, I don't know. I actually really like Jake Paul. It just seems so, it's odd, bro, when whispers of a so-called fight script started circulating. It added a whole new layer of chaos. According to the alleged leak, the fight's outcome had been predetermined, complete with specific punches, dramatic knockdowns, and a Hollywood-worthy finale. The idea sounded too crazy to believe until you looked closer. Joe Rogan, who's no stranger to combat sports conspiracy theories, didn't hold back. He dissected the fight with brutal honesty, calling out moments that felt more like a choreographed action scene than a legitimate boxing match. His take: if there was a script, they sure stuck to it in some suspiciously accurate ways. No, I don't know. I actually really like Jake Paul, just so it's odd. Bro, the timing, it's a timing. I mean, it's obviously odd. No, he fights too. No Names beats them both well. The whole Jake Paul thing is like, but this wasn't the first time celebrity boxing faced accusations of being more UWA than WBC. Jake Paul's fights have been magnets for controversy, with past opponents suggesting fight fixing and weird contract clauses. And Tyson, despite his legendary status, isn't new to business-savvy decisions. Either put those two together, and suddenly, the fight being scripted doesn't sound so far-fetched. The alleged leak detailed things like Jake surviving an early onslaught, staging a dramatic comeback, and Tyson losing gracefully to set up a potential rematch. Conveniently, a moments lined up almost too perfectly with what actually happened. Rogan didn't outright call it a fix, but his pointed analysis left a lot of fans questioning what they just watched. This not necessarily Mike Tyson, but it was something like this, like he'd actually get a fight with, like, Canelo, and just get mubbed. Be like, well, of course you lost to Canelo, but get a massive payday. But now it seems like it's this one was really random to me. Then there's the business angle. Think about it. Tyson and Paul are masters of creating viral moments. A fight this big wasn't just about bragging rights. It was about money, influence, and media dominance. Why settle for a one-time payday when a perfectly staged rivalry could guarantee a rematch or even a trilogy? Pairing him with Tyson wasn't just a fight, it was a calculated business move designed to dominate headlines and break pay-per-view records. Still, many hardcore boxing fans hated every second of it. To them, the whole thing felt like a circus act. Freak show that mocked the sport they love. But even the loudest critics couldn't stop watching, because love him or hate him, Jake Paul knows how to stay relevant, and Tyson's name still carries weight. Like no other, their combined star power created something bigger than boxing. It was sport. Entertainment on steroids.
It's like Matt always says, play to your strengths.
Yeah,
no
but you know,
doubt.
you got to take that payday. I mean, what did he make out of that fight? He probably made $10 million or something.
Yeah, of course, this brings us back to Joe Rogan's brutal analysis. His deep dive into the fight wasn't just about calling out suspicious moves. It was about defending the integrity of combat sports. Rogan has spent years breaking down real fights, celebrating authentic warriors. Seeing a fight that looked staged didn't just disappoint him. It struck at the heart of everything he stands for. Was it all just a clever marketing stunt? Or was it a legitimate fight that looked too cinematic to be real? Maybe. The truth doesn't even matter. Tyson versus Paul wasn't about winning or losing. It was about dominating the cultural conversation. In that sense, whether scripted or not, they both won when Jake Paul and Mike Tyson squared off. It wasn't just a fight. It felt like a scripted blockbuster. The bout was packed with almost two perfect moments, prompting fans and experts alike to ask, was this real boxing or a Hollywood production about this? It's not what boxing is about, is it? It's about two fighters of set. Similar ability, training really hard, finding how the better manners. They're not of similar ability. Mike Tyson's one of the most gifted fighters ever created. Seeing Mike Tyson's loss was the saddest thing for boxing fans. Well, I never imagined Mike's legacy tore apart like this. Jake Paul's resilient also raised eyebrows. His ability to absorb punishment seemed almost superhuman, especially against a puncher like Tyson. Critics pointed out that Paul, despite limited experience, managed to stay composed under pressure, using defensive tactics far beyond his known skill set. Joe Rogan himself found this suspicious, calling out moments where Paul's serve survival seemed unnaturally timed. The analyst broke down the fight in detail, highlighting Tyson